Oleksandr Usyk is a special fighter. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows what he brings to the table when he steps into the ring.
I'm White Rabbit.
We've seen him go in there and KO guys. We've seen him go in there and outclass guys with his skills. Look, moving up to the heavyweight division and dominating is probably one of the more difficult things that you can do in the sport, particularly in this era of supersized heavyweights. But Usyk has what it takes, man. He goes in there and he gets it done. And that's why going into last night's fight, he was a 10-1 favorite. Most people predicted him winning by stoppage late in the fight. Tim Bradley got on ESPN.com, wrote an article saying how analyzing the technique of these two men was meaningless. Didn't even matter because going in, we knew how the fight was going to end. Then we went in there and we saw the fight last night. Now, let's be honest with each other. Other than this controversial low blow, which we'll touch on in a minute, but other than the controversial low blow, the fight went pretty much how we expected. Usyk didn't win every single round, but he won the vast majority of them. Dominated the fight. Came out there in the first round, establishes the jab, the range, the rhythm of the fight, all in the first round. Just goes out there and immediately from the first bell takes control. He's utilizing the jab. He's getting inside and outside of Dubois' left lead hand. He's getting underneath it. He's going over the top. Going into the second round, from there we see him start to dial in the left hand. We see him start to be on the attack a little bit more, work his angles. Then fight starts to get into the later rounds and he starts to turn it up. Starts to come forward a little bit more. Starts to be more aggressive. Starts to throw the combinations, really starts to sit down on start of some of his punches, and eventually we see him get the finish. Now, if you just saw the headline and it said Usyk wins 6 or 7 rounds, dominates with the jab, gets the 9th round stoppage, you'd say that sounds about right. But when you watch this fight, I think there's a little bit more to the story. First, Dubois saw a lot more success than I thought a lot of people thought he was going into this fight. First sign of it, you take a look at this 3rd round, and he starts to put something together. And in that round alone, he landed some solid right hands. He was also able to get to the body, and he was able to back Usyk up at times, which really threw off his offense. And those right hands in the 3rd round, man, the ones that he was landing to the body, those were a foreshadowing of what was to come in the 5th. And that is the one that's got everybody up in arms, right? This punch in the 5th round. So look at the way this shot lands. Okay, look at the way this shot lands. Now, before we look for it, before we start to talk about whether or not we thought this was a legal blow, let's just acknowledge the way Dubois set this up and landed it. He steps in behind the jab, okay, and he knows at this point, he knows in the fight that Usyk is likely to parry. That keeps him right in position. When Usyk parries this shot, his feet aren't moving. And look at all the space between his elbow and the belt line. He's standing tall. He's prepared to block something that's going to be coming upstairs. And look, he starts to pivot here a little bit, starts to even throw a short little right hand at Dubois. All his focus is upstairs. Everything he's focused on is looking upstairs, and Dubois is able to just get in there, man, and rip that right hand right to the body. What a great shot. And when you see this basically right on the belt line, look, the overwhelming majority of refs would have let this go at the time. Watching it back in super slow-mo, the majority of people think this shot was legit. And I'm also in that camp. I don't think it was an illegal blow, but, Dubois had already been warned once about it. Things happen fast in there, man. It wasn't Usyk's fault. It's on the ref. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to say? It is what it is. But, maybe if the ref would have started counting, Usyk would have got up. Maybe he wouldn't have. He was definitely hurt from it. Either way, end of the day, the call went how it went. Dubois couldn't put anything together after that. Usyk gets up. He does what he does. And later on in the fight, he gets the stoppage. And I'll also add to this, man, not a good look for Dubois here at this stoppage, right? Now, look, I understand he was getting caught. But at the end of the day, he basically got caught with a jab and he just stayed down. As soon as the count reached 10, he pops right back up. It's like, I get it, man. I get that was the same eye that he basically got smashed with previously. But after the fight, it's like Tim Bradley said, man, he was defeated mentally. He was getting beat on physically, and then he checked out mentally and he laid it down. So awesome performance by Usyk for the most part, but we saw a little bit of what was possible. We saw a little bit about what his opponents can do to come in there and they can start to see some success against him. And this is the big question, right? This is what it all comes down to. After you got done watching this fight, does this fight make you think it's more or less likely that he's going to be able to go in there and beat Tyson Fury? Because that's the fight that counts. That's the one that really matters. That's the one that has everybody talking. After Tyson Fury goes in here and fights Francis Ngannou, that's the one that everybody is going to be talking about next, just like it's the one that we've been talking about up until this point. How is it going to look? And there was a lot of people going into this fight talking about how Fury was ducking Usyk, talking about how Usyk was the more skilled man, talking about how he's not exactly a small guy. He's not little. That's just, one of the things that people throw out there. Yes, Fury's bigger, but Usyk is more than big enough to get the job done And he's so skilled, he's so quick, he's a southpaw, he's able to do things with that left hand, he understands angles and footwork. Nobody's lying when they're saying all of those things. The man is incredibly skilled, and we see it every single time he goes out there. But after this last fight, does he look more beatable? After this last fight, does he look like a guy that Fury's going to be able to get to, right? We know the kind of ring IQ that Fury has. We saw what Dubois and people in the past have been able to do with getting to the body of Usyk. Saw what they've been able to do with that right hand. What do you think Fury's going to be able to do? A guy who's taller, bigger, longer, a guy who's much heavier. What's he going to be able to do when he gets inside and starts to wear him down? He's going to be able to get low with that right hand and start getting off with it. Fascinating stuff. So let me know what you guys think. How do you think this one turned out? What kind of a showing do you think it was for Usyk, knowing that when he came into this one, he was a 10-1 favorite? Let me know.